You've testified on these things.
Yes.
And are you being asked more questions now because of what happened in the Gulf of Mexico?
Yes, I've been what I call oil field free for 4 years, living across the inlet there and fishing and enjoying a nice, peaceful life until this happened. So
you retired from the oil field.
I call it retarded.
Don't tell Sarah.
Yes.
So what did you do right afterwards? You got fired. Then what were you like? Okay, you just lost this great job. It's not like you got to retire. You were fired.
Yes.
So then what happened then? You just went to the boonies?
Yeah, I through the Labor Department and Chuck's help and the EPA's help, I sued BP and Nabors, and I settled out of court. And it's confidential, but it wasn't much. It was, you know, I still have to work. I started my own business. I haul freight for the people that live on the river system and just stay out there and come to Anchorage as little as possible.
Isn't it funny that when you live out where there's lots of bears and there's brown bears, there's black bears, there's wolves, it doesn't matter, it seems so much safer than actually dealing with corporations?
Oh yes, I'd deal with a snake before I'd deal with BP again. You could put a gun in my head and make me do it.
You know, and it's too bad they don't make a spray. You know, like you got your spray to get them back.
A dispersant.
A dispersant. I would like a dispersant to get rid of some of these oil corporations that have just gotten too big to fail.
Amen.
And we're looking at this right now, and I was a first responder to the spill, lived through that. We talked about this on last week's show quite a bit with some other first responders. And, you know, I was watching Senator Murkowski this week defend the oil companies and say that we shouldn't raise their cap on how, you know, just how many damages that they can have. I would like to see there be an actual profit cap, or that's when the windfall tax starts happening, is at the same point where they cap their what they're willing to pay in damages. What do you, when you're looking at this right now and what BP is doing, what do you expect to happen? Because I know so many of us feel like a prophet. You know, we're like, okay, this is what they're going to do next. This is what they'll do next.
I'm thinking that maybe this time it might turn it around a little bit as far as the politicians and the regulation, you know, the committees that regulate everything, they're so corrupt that since Obama's in office that they're going to have to change their ways a little bit. But I don't see BP ever changing until we kick them out, until they're gone. And I don't know if we can do that. They've got so much money and so much power, and I don't see it ever ending until they're out of here.
Well, we saw him today having Lisa Murkowski by the short hairs.
Well,
you know,
the way I look at that, right, and the way I look at that, it's a good thing. The Corrupt Bastards Club is not a men's only club, so that's the way I look at that.
Yeah, and that apple, or that nut didn't fall too far from the tree.
Exactly.
So when, what is your best advice for people who are working for oil corporations right now who, and I know this, I know people in Alaska are seeing some of these practices while they're out there just the same way you did. Mm-hmm. What's your best advice to them?
If you don't like it, get a different job. And stand up and speak up. Don't be scared, because the worst thing they can do is take your job.
Do you think that the tests were falsified on the BP rig down there?
I can't say for sure. I think it's a widespread practice that they had. I know now they have computer digital tests. I do think that they cut corners and didn't maintain them, and I do think that they knew there was a problem and they didn't deal with it beforehand. I don't know if they felt, you know, I've never worked down that in that area, but it's a culture that's everywhere. Right. Oil field workers are a funny bunch. You know, they're all these big men, you know, and they always talk big and everything, but when you get something like that and a bunch of lawyers show up, and they pee their pants, and they're scared to lose their job. And if they tell the truth, then they're going to lose their job somewhere along the way. And I think that if they were testifying under oath in a congressional hearing or in a court setting, I think they would tell the truth. But when you have AOGC and DEC and all these companies, and especially ones paid for by the oil companies, doing their own internal investigation and letting BP run the hen house, these people are going to go, I don't know, because they're not under oath and they don't have to tell the truth. And then it just becomes one isolated incident, one person gets run off. They had an uncontrolled well incident one time, mud shooting out of the hole. The hands took a picture of it. BP didn't report it. They didn't even get a fine. The hands lost their quarterly bonus because they used a camera without filling it up, permit, and sniffing for gas. And that's how that all ended. It was in the news, and nothing happened.
So basically, bend over, they're driving.
That's right. 100%.
All right, well, there's the good news. Yeah, the bad news is that every 4 days in the Gulf right now, they're having a spill the same size as the Exxon Valdez. That's the bad news. So, you know, we've got to pay attention, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right.